Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be repotting the orchids that I recently received in an order from Orchids Delux, and I thought I'd just take you through a repot for one of them and then show you them all at the end, and if I find anything interesting then obviously I'll show you as well. But yeah, they all need repotting. They're all in very tightly packed, very soggy sphagnum moss, and I know some people would say obviously don't repot until they finish flowering, but for me I don't really take that into consideration. Like, the blooms are secondary to the plant's health in my opinion, and I can't keep them like this in my environment, so I'd rather risk losing this flower, which doesn't look in the best shape anyway, than leave it in this state. And if this flower falls or the buds blast, then that's fine, it'll make more when it's healthy and ready. So I'm fine with that. Doesn't tend to happen for me, but if you disturb the root system a lot, yeah, you may well get bud blast if you repot while they're in bud. Particularly with Phalaenopsis, and particularly if their buds are just starting. If they're kind of nearly open, it's a bit less of a risk, but yeah, I've got some here that have got buds, so I'm not worried about that. So I'll probably show you the repot for this guy, because we've got a root sticking out the bottom there. Looks like maybe the most interesting one because we've got a couple of dead roots. The others I'm probably just going to literally be taking out the pot, pulling the moss off and putting them into semi-hydro. So yeah, the media that I've chose for these is semi-hydro with leca. And to start with, when I do repots, I do like to keep orchids in clear containers if possible, just so I can see what's going on with the root system. I do also have some standard semi-hydro pots that are just kind of decorative floral containers that I then drill holes into. This is a good option for when I know the plant is doing well, or if I'm not really worried that the plant will do well in semi-hydro. So the issue with the clear pots is you do get a lot of algae in the reservoir. But to start with, I am going to keep them in the clear pots, and then I'll transfer them into different setups when I kind of feel that they're well established. There are a few here that I probably will have to put into non-transparent pots, just because I've got quite a lot of orchids here and I don't think I've got enough clear pots that are suitably sized. But we will have a look and see what the root systems are like. And so for example, this one here, this little foul Zhengming sputtering, I'm gonna have to put that one into a much smaller pot, I think. So I've got a little transparent cup that I'll put that one in because it's a very small orchid. So yeah, I will get started with the repot. I'll just clear the table off. Okay, so usually I would soak these orchids first, but they've arrived in a very soaking wet media. And this one is not going to come out. So what I'm gonna have to do is cut this pot. This is quite often what you'll have to do if you get them in these transparent pots, because they just pack the moss so tightly, and then as the roots grow, they obviously compress it even more because they're occupying more space in the pot. So now that I've opened that up, the rest of the plant should come out relatively easily. There you go. That's done. So yeah, this moss is very soggy. It's just a case of just teasing all of this moss out, and when we get past this outer layer of moss, we'll probably find another inner layer of moss, because the way it's done, you have the seedling plug and then they'll just pack around it more tightly with sphagnum, and this works for nurseries but doesn't work for me. This moss is actually quite it's giving off quite a strong smell as well, so I think it 100% needed a repot. Doesn't look too bad, but it really smells quite strong. Okay, so what we've done here is we've removed that outer layer of moss, and we've got to the seedling plug in the middle, which was just filled around more tightly with moss. And the roots are looking pretty good on this one. I mean, the rest of them, the roots looked amazing, so this was the only one I thought I might find a few dead ones in, just because I could see what looked like a dead one from the outside, but was probably just the kind of darker one, because I can't actually see any dead ones here. So just have to tease this out, and just need to be really gentle and just take your time. It's especially with these very tightly packed plugs, and especially if you've got a lot of roots. It becomes even more difficult when you've got lots of roots. Very careful of all these lovely little root tips. Usually once you can get the kind of end of a strand of moss, the rest of it comes out quite easily. So I just kind of take it a little bit at a time, gradually pulling, and sometimes you will hear almost the moss snapping where it does have strands. Quite often that'll give you a bit of a, it certainly gives me a bit of a heart attack when I hear the moss snapping and I'm like, oh no, breaking a root. No, it's just moss, it's fine. But yeah, we have quite a very good root system even through the middle of this. It always amazes me how nurseries can grow like this. But yeah, I mean, sphagnum moss is a really good potting medium. It's just how you use it, and obviously maybe nurseries just don't water very often, so they absolutely can get away with it like this. So yeah, if you don't disturb the roots, and if you change the media to something that is actually preferable for the plant or very similar to what the plant was already in. So for example, if I just potted this straight into sphagnum moss, if I wanted to use an organic media, it would be absolutely fine. And it wouldn't probably lose any roots at all because it's already adapted to sphagnum moss. And for semi-hydro as well, I don't really find that they lose roots. Usually the root tips just keep growing, they're fine. But if you were to put this into bark, for example, then the flower may well drop or the buds might blast because you kind of stress the plant. So it's like, oh, I need to divert my energy into putting some new roots down now because it's not getting enough nutrition supplied anymore, whereas it was previously. So that's kind of what I think. If you don't disturb the root system too much, the orchid won't even feel it. So yeah. Going to spritz this down with hydrogen peroxide before I run it under the tap. I've never actually seen a snail on a Phalaenopsis, but there's always a first time for everything. So I just, as a general rule now, I just spritz everything down with hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so I've left that to fizz a bit and then rinse the root system off at the sink. So now we're going to pot it up into, I think, one of the cups. I think that should fit quite nicely there, and leave a good reservoir at the bottom for watering. And I'm going to put this into semi-hydro with leca. I've prepared my leca beads already, so if it doesn't fit very well, you can just kind of rotate the plant so that you're winding the root system in, and that way there's less risk of them breaking compared to if you were just trying to push the plant down. Just going to fill around that with leca now. And you can see what I've done is I have kept all of the roots up above where the reservoir level will be. So the reservoir will fill up to sort of here maximum, and then these holes will be for flushing through. Okay, so I've just picked out some of the larger beads so that just the top layer I can fill with the smaller leca. Okay, so that is my little Phalaenopsis dragon tree eagle, all nicely potted up. And just pop the tag in. Always try and find a side where there are no roots to do this. Okay, so that is all finished. So I'm just going to get on and do the others now, and I will come back to you when all of them are potted up, or unless I find something else interesting that you might want to see in the meantime. Okay, so that is my novelty Phalaenopsis haul from Orchids Delux, all repotted. For the most part, the root systems were really great, and I was a little bit negative in the unboxing, but I think that's just because I had a really high expectation for them. If I kind of look at it objectively, I've received some really great plants. Most of them are either in spike or blooming size, producing new leaves with great root systems. So the yellowing on the leaves, I believe, is due to high light after contacting Orchids Delux. They were saying that they've had 50 degrees Celsius plus in their greenhouses consistently for the past few weeks. So I think it's just related to that. They did also suggest it could be a nutrient deficiency. Obviously, I will give them quite a good fertilising weekly with my semi-hydro setup anyway. So I've given them an initial dose of fertiliser, which may be slightly higher than usual, to try and kind of pick up the nitrogen so they can produce more of that chlorophyll in the leaves. But yeah, I'm still a bit disappointed about this one. And I did contact them about it, and they were just a little bit like, you know, it will be flowering size in 6 months. That's fine, like novelty phals do bloom very young, but it's a little bit on the small side compared to the not flowering size 12 months from blooming. Orchids Delux did point out to me that obviously different orchids are different sizes, and within Phalaenopsis you get some big Phalaenopsis, but this is a summer blooming, so it's going to be more compact. I kind of, yeah, I do understand that, but I don't know. I guess I just had like higher expectations. It's very yellow as well, obviously from the highlight and high heat it's been getting. So I'm sure it'll do absolutely fine. It didn't have many roots, like I said, but it was the only one out of them that didn't have many, and it's probably just because it's quite a young plant. So it's fine, I can grow it on, and I have done for many young novelty Phalaenopsis, summer blooming Phalaenopsis. I was a little bit disappointed by their response as well, and obviously they hadn't got one of the items that I ordered in stock, and they didn't contact me about that. They just refunded it and sent a message just the day before it was delivered saying it had been refunded, no option to like choose another one. They were sent very wet, which the response to that was, if we didn't send them wet, you'd end up with a herbarium, not orchids, because I guess obviously it's been quite hot in Europe. That's fine. It's not been that hot in the UK though this week, so it would have been fine not shipped that wet. Like my orchid garden order was like perfectly just slightly moist when I got it. But again, it's caused no problems, so it's just kind of the response to my queries. I was just querying because I was obviously making this video. I wanted to give them an opportunity to respond as well. I didn't tell them that. I just said, you know, I've just got a couple of issues. Would you just be able to confirm a few things? And I just wanted to let you know that they were shipped quite wet, and obviously it had made a lot of the packaging wet. I just wanted to give you that feedback. And they were just kind of like, yeah, they weren't particularly happy that I emailed them, obviously. And you could tell she's getting a little bit annoyed with me, so I've just left it. It's fine. I've got some really nice orchids. Yeah, I'm not big on confrontation. So my Phalaenopsis Dragon Tree Eagle, I've left it overnight and it has opened up a little bit more. So I kind of wanted to show you this one. You can tell it's maybe a little bit affected by transport. It does look a little bit bruised. I'm not sure actually if this is the colouring or just where it's darkened, where it's been affected during transport. But I just love the shape of this. It's not fully open yet. Isn't it beautiful? I can't wait for it to open some buds up in my care, because obviously the buds that you get from when it's flowering in your home will be much better quality than any that have been through shipping. But isn't it just beautiful? Absolutely love it. So thank you so much for watching today, and I'm sorry if I've been a little bit negative about Orchids Delux over the unboxing and this. I've got some really great unique orchids from them, and I would still definitely recommend them. I guess I just had too high expectations maybe. So if you've got any questions or comments, do leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys later. Bye!